Well, folks, here we are a month out and a day from the 2024 election. So at this point, polls matter. I know there's a lot of people, by the way, on social media, they're like, polls don't matter. What matters is people get out there and vote. Well, obviously. But you cannot dismiss polls. Okay, you can't just go out there and say, the only thing that matters is how people vote. Well, yeah, but the polls are a barometer telling us how people are leaning right now. So to dismiss them entirely is not smart. Anyway, having said that, all of the latest forecast models, polling data, and issue polling data is all pretty bad for Donald Trump. According to Nate Silver's most recent forecast model, 12 states in this country are now leaning towards, or at least going more towards the favor of, Vice President Kamala Harris. Now, before I read you that list of 12 states where she is gaining ground on Donald Trump, please understand that gaining ground does not mean she is definitely going to win them, but it does mean that with a month to go, those gaps are so close that she could. And some of these states may shock you. Michigan, obviously we know she's doing well in Michigan. Florida, that's shocking. There's only a 3.6 point gap between Trump and Harris now in Florida. Trump, of course, is in the lead. So there's that. But a 3.6 point gap in Florida is pretty good. She is gaining ground. Nevada, New Mexico, Texas, New Hampshire, Virginia, Montana, Ohio, Nebraska's 2nd district, Washington, and Missouri. So 12 states where Harris is closing the gap between Donald Trump, and in some of those, of course, she is winning, and she's just, pulling further away from him. But that's pretty bad for Donald Trump. But the other side of it also exists. While Trump is losing ground in some states, he is closing up the gap in others. 7 states, including 4 vital swing states, have started to shift more towards Donald Trump. Now, Harris is still leading, but Trump is actually gaining a little bit of ground. Wisconsin, North Carolina, Georgia, Minnesota, California, Arizona, and Maryland. Now, in a couple of those, Arizona, North Carolina, and Georgia, depending on what poll you're looking at, Trump is pulling ahead, but not by more than 1 point. So Harris still has Wisconsin, but Donald Trump could be closing that gap. So, it's iffy. We don't know what's going to happen, but we don't always look at one poll, right? Even these forecast models, because Nate Silver is not the only one who is now showing that Harris, is heading towards an electoral victory, which he is projecting, that she is going to win the Electoral College right now. Other forecast models out this week have said the same thing, but you do have to vote. You can't look at these and say like, oh, sweet, cool, we're done. Hell no, we're not done. You got to get out there and you have to do the work. You have to make these numbers become reality. And that, I think, is the part where a lot of these people who say polls don't matter, what matters is voting, that's where they get confused. The polls do matter, but yes, you do have to vote to make the polling data reflect the election results, okay? That's how that works. The two go hand in hand. Don't dismiss one and rely on the other. Take them together, and there you go. Now, there's other news. Bad news for Donald Trump. According to other polls, he has completely lost the edge that he had with voters on the economy. A Cook political report from August showed that Donald Trump was leading Kamala Harris 48% to 42% on the question in the swing states of who would be best to handle the economy. In September, it was 47-47. So he had a 6-point lead on the issue of handling the economy. Now he has no lead at all. And an equal number of these swing state voters say he would do better or she would do better. But where it gets worse from Donald Trump is a little further down the line, same on the economic issue, his tariffs. His tariffs are wildly unpopular, with a majority of voters in the swing states saying that, yes, it would raise the prices that we pay for everyday goods. Meanwhile, Harris has gained ground, obviously, on the economic issue, and there is an explanation for that. There are a few explanations for this shift. The first is that Harris's message on the economy has broken through. Since kicking off her campaign 2 months ago, Harris has honed in on affordability messages that stresses reducing the costs of pharmaceutical drugs, cracking down on price gouging, and promoting affordable housing. Last week, she unveiled an 82-page economic policy plan. Moreover, voters give Trump only a 3-point lead on a centerpiece of his economic agenda, tariffs and trade. Only 38% of swing state voters said they thought that a 20% tariff on imported goods would, mean jobs would come back. 45% said companies would increase the prices consumers pay for the tariff. So Trump is now losing support on the economic issue due to his trade policies, his tariffs. Harris is gaining ground because she's talking about affordability. So when we look at these forecast models, when we see what is actually happening, yes, Trump may be gaining ground in a few states, but I don't think that is sustainable for him. Harris has gained ground in other states, and I do think that is sustainable for her, and here is why. Harris is talking about the issues that voters care about. She is actually addressing their concerns. Donald Trump is talking about tariffs. And I think the more he talks about that, the more he tries to focus on policy, which he's really not even doing, voters are going to get confused. They're going to realize that he doesn't know what he's talking about, and that is going to turn them away. Not to mention the fact that we just, after all of these polls and forecasts came out, we got the new Jack Smith court filing. So that is also probably going to weigh heavily on voters' minds, right? Like, okay, do I listen to the woman who's talking about affordability issues, things I care about? Or do I listen to the convicted felon who just got hammered in a new court filing talking about things that even he doesn't seem to understand? I think it's going to play a big role. As we, inch towards this finish line here during this last month of this, I think we're going to see a bigger shift towards Harris. I really do. She is talking about things that matter. Trump is out there ranting like a lunatic on Truth Social because he's mad that he's, a convicted felon and he's probably going to get convicted again. One of those messages is going to work with voters. The other is probably going to turn them off. But again, and I cannot emphasize this enough, none of this matters if you don't vote. If you don't go out there and do the groundwork, if you don't put yourself out there, if you don't encourage other people to go, offer people rides to the polls if you have to. Say, hey, let's carpool. Let's do this. Let's all go. That's what has to happen. We have to have the turnout. Because if the turnout does not exist, then yes, these polls don't matter. They're meaningless. But if the turnout is there, these polls, of course, will have correctly predicted it. So the two go hand in hand, but it's on us, each and every individual, to make it happen. Hi, everyone. This here is little Athena. And Athena would like to know why you haven't subscribed to Fair and Balanced yet. So please, don't let Athena down. Subscribe today.